in his Germantown, Maryland home right there, right where he loves to be, in the middle of all of the books. The only thing he's missing is the ping pong table out in front of you, Larry. First of all, let me welcome you, Larry, to our Pong Positive interview series.
Thanks, glad to be here.
Well, obviously, if anybody's been around USATT or table tennis in America for any length of time knows Larry Hodges. There's very little introduction that is needed in a number of contexts. Larry, number one, is as a player, as a coach, also as one of the most prolific writers ever involved, I think, in the sport just generally. You were just telling me that you just had another published book come out with more tips, and you've got one coming in May as well, more tips on playing solid ping pong.
Right. Yeah, there's still more table tennis tips will be coming out in May, which is sequels to Table Tennis Tips, more Table Tennis Tips, and then still more Table Tennis Tips. And of course,
I feel there's going to be more and more table tennis.
Right. About 3 years from now, I'll have to come up with and still more table tennis tips. I'm running out of words to put in the front.
Well, it's my understanding, Larry, that you've written over 17 books, that you've had 9 of them at least on table tennis, some 1,950 plus articles, 1,600 on table tennis alone. What people may not know, they know you're a prolific writer on table tennis, but you're also rather prolific in the field and the genre of science fiction, where you've come up with some very interesting ideas in your time as a writer.
Yeah. Besides, I have 9 table tennis books. The bestseller is Table Tennis Tactics for Thinkers. But there's also the table tennis tips, more table tennis tips. See if I can actually show those. These ones right here. There we go.
Plug.
And then in 1 month, we'll have still more table tennis tips. That comes out in May. In science fiction, I have 4 novels. I just got my 4th short story collection came out. So I have 4 short story collections and 4 novels. One of the novels is The Spirit of Pong, which is a fantasy table tennis novel.
Well, Larry, as we all know, sometimes truth is stranger than fiction. And right now, we're in a very difficult circumstance with the COVID-19 pandemic throughout the world. Just curious, have you ever kind of delved in your science fiction writing into this concept of the pandemic and how it impacts the human race?
Okay, my science fiction writing, haven't really covered anything quite like this. I did have a story that got published in Escape Pod that killed off what was described in a review as more sentient beings than any story in the history of ever, because it killed off not only the entire universe, but all the parallel universes and the whole multiverse got destroyed in one of my stories, and the quintillions of beings that died, and it wasn't even a fraction of how many. But that's in the world of science fiction. So, as far as table tennis, the big thing here is for table tennis coaches everywhere, myself included, we're kind of out of work. Now, me, it's not so bad because I'm only part-time. I'm semi-retired. So I coach just group sessions at the Maryland Table Tennis Center, and they're all on hold now. I had a number of classes. I usually coach 4 times a week at these classes, 2 beginning classes, 2 advanced ones for advanced juniors. With this pandemic, everything is closed, and they're going to be closed for a long time. Now, it's not as bad for me, but some of my fellow coaches, this is their income, and some of them, they're still in their 20s, 30s. They haven't built up savings on this type of thing, so they're really stuck right now. They're doing different things. I know one of them is starting to write articles. He sent me one over to proof, since I end up doing a lot of those, unfortunately. But they're all stuck suddenly with nothing to do because they can't coach. So this is a major problem nationwide. I'm not sure how hopefully they can deal with this. Some I heard Samson Davina, he's doing a lot of online coaching. I think Brian Pace is doing that. Others might be doing that as well. In fact, if they contact me, I'll put it in my blog. If they my blog, which comes every Monday, tabletenniscoaching.com, I can put in there any coaches that want to just Skype coaching, and I can announce it. People can contact them.
Yeah, obviously there's a lot of difficulty throughout the entire business community, and it certainly hasn't spared table tennis and coaches in table tennis. You know, Larry, you've been around for a long time. You've seen a lot of developments. You mentioned this online coaching, and when we started in the sports that we were in, we were lucky to get video. Days after the event. Well, actually, I'm old enough to remember getting criticized on film, if that tells you anything. Now, online, it really has changed things, and it does give coaches an opportunity to reach players that they otherwise might not be able to see.
Yep. Oh yeah, I actually started doing that. I did some step coaching several years ago. They're pretty extensive, but I'm just too busy on other things, so I finally took that off. I stopped doing that. But I do encourage people to do it. The difficulty is Skype coaching means you have to get videos of yourself to show the coach. They could do that on a robot maybe or something, but it's tricky doing it now with all the clubs closed. Now there is an interesting thing. I keep thinking you're supposed to keep 6 foot distance. The table's 9 feet long, so I have had this thought that maybe 2 at a time people could go into a club. I don't know if that's a bad thing. Maybe it's not, but maybe they can wear masks. But if you have a table in your basement and you keep your distance or something, maybe they could do something like that temporarily. I'm not sure.
Well, Larry, anybody that has been around you and knows that one of your passions are the youth players, young players coming up in the ranks of table tennis. I know you've been working with a number of kids in the Maryland area. You've got a number of high quality players in the pipeline right now and played in elite events. You've got to be pleased right now with the fact that table tennis continues to regenerate itself. It continues to translate across the generational lines, and we continue to see these young kids coming up and challenging the elite players at all levels.
Oh yeah, if you go back many years ago, like the 90s or so, they still developed some really good players back then, but the depth was really weak, and the strongest ones could not, rarely could challenge the best in the world. Now, players that were the best back then are part of a lot of them would be just part of the pack now. A player who made the semifinals of the under 14s 20 years ago isn't going to make it past the first round anymore. You just look at the depth. I mean, I don't say first round, but it's going to make the final 32, for example, typically. I looked at the ratings and I compared them, and it's just the depth is incredible. Now, a lot of this, back in then, they weren't full-time training centers. When we opened the first in Maryland in 1992, I opened it with Chen Yinghua and Jack Pong, and for the first number of years, we were the only ones. Gradually, they started showing up. As late as 2007, there were only 8 in the United States. Now there's over 100. I know because I keep track of them, and I've worked with a lot of them. A lot of them contacted me to find out how to do this type of thing. So there's now over 100 full-time centers. The result is now we have juniors, huge numbers, who are training all over the country. The sheer number of players is not dramatically larger. It's probably double the numbers then. But it used to be there might be 10 or 20 in the country training full time, and now there's 1,000, something like that. So suddenly we're developing Canuck Jaws, Amy and Crystal Wongs, Nick Hills, and all these other kids are just so good, and Nicole Kumar. And I apologize to all the ones I'm not mentioning, because if I started listing them all, that would be the interview. Right now. And suddenly we're challenging all but the very best countries in the world. If we can reach the point where we're approaching the top 4 in the world among our juniors, pretty soon we'll be challenging the Chinese. So who knows where this is going to go. A lot of it's not just the numbers. Once you have the numbers and it's proven it works, coaches go to those places and you start developing, both attract good coaches and you develop good coaches. We have some of the best coaches in the world in the United States now, and they're developing players very, very well. I know because my club is just one of the ones doing it. We have some really good players in our club, especially boys. And all over the country, they're all developing these players at a level they just weren't doing it before.
Mark Thompson here with Larry Hodges, USATT Hall of Famer, been around for a long time. Larry, there may be nobody in the sport, certainly in America, who is more in a position to analyze and make a comment on how the game has changed over the last 30, 40 years. You look at it, has there been a significant change in the way players approach the sport generally now than they did, let's say, in the 1980s or 1990s?
There are a number of changes. The sponges are better now. They had gluing back then, but I think the sponges are better than the glued sponge back then. But the biggest thing is there's several things. Backhands are much, much, much better. When I was coming up, I reached top 20 in the country as a player. I'm a better coach, better writer. As a player, if players spun the backhand off in a rally, either they basically, most players, if they spun the backhand, they backed off. If they play close to the table, they hit. Now, of course, everyone spins off the bounce of the backhand, which was considered relatively rare back then, much more difficult. You have a few Tibor Klampar and a few others who did that, but not very many could do it back in those days. Now everyone does that. Like when I play people, to me the biggest, most difficult thing is I'm a forehand oriented player, was, and it's hard to play it when people can just come at you with both wings just as strong without you can take a step back. So the biggest change is how much stronger backhands are now. Back then, players just, used to be, they said one gun is as good as two, meaning that if you had the shot, you'd step around with the forehand. And players still favor the forehand, but now the backhand is so strong that it's just amazing. You used to be, you played to the backhand to get away from the forehand, and now there's nowhere to go. So that's a big thing. Penalty game has changed. They almost died out, and now they play, because of the reverse penalty backhand, which was unheard of when I was coming up. They play their backhand the same as a shakehander. So it's basically a shakehand style play. The other big change is banana flip. Very good players can reach over the table and topspin flip the way they do now. They all can flip, but light topspin. Now they all do extreme topspin. I remember I became one of the early people who learned how to flip every strip ball, but I do it with late topspin. Now they're coming in mini loops, everything. So the receiving becomes almost a strength. The serving is kept up with the follow-ups because they're two-winged, but in general, receives are much, much better because of that. Sometimes they get weaker for a simple reason. They get so addicted to the banana flip that they stop varying it. A lot of them, they come up, they don't develop the short push and the occasional long push. And because of that, when they reach the higher level, people serve, they flip it, and the other guys all already step back ready to loop. So sometimes it can lead to a weakness in the receive because they come up, so they attack every serve, and they have no variation. You need to learn all the variation, the flip, the short push, and the long push. And then once you do that, you can favor the long flip, and then have the other ones as variation. The short push always has its place.
Larry, another thing that stands out in your career as a commentator and a player and a coach, a writer in table tennis is your shameless plug for Dr. Pepper there, is your, well, not only love of the game, but your love of fun in the game. I have personally witnessed you play with a clipboard. I think you're the #1 player in the world right now with a clipboard, if I'm not mistaken. And it just, one of those things that has been a kind of a consistent element throughout your career is your desire to make the sport fun, to have fun with it, to encourage those who play it, that ultimately table tennis is a game of enjoyment.
Yeah. It's one of the reasons even at my peak, I was basically a foreign attacker with a steady backhand, but I would vary that game. I remember I was sitting in the back of an elevator once at the teams. I was sitting in the back, and there were some people in the front didn't know I was back there, and they said, "Oh, I played Larry today," and he runs around trying to play everything with his forehand. And the other guy said, "Larry? No, he just plays steady. He just stays at the table, walks and carries everything." And the other guy said, "I thought he just fished and lobbed. I played him too." Because I sometimes play a different style until they forced me to go back. I varied the styles like that. That's also why I play hard bat and clipboard. Clipboard, I was pushing 2200 level. I beat a lot of 23, even a couple of 24 players with a clipboard, and I had a standing thing for about 15-year period at every Open and Nationals. As a favorite USA table tennis for the junior committee, I would go to the tables. They'd give me a table usually, and I'd put $40 on the table. Anyone rated under 2,000 could play me, and they had to put $20. So it was my 40 versus their 20. And if they win, they got my $40 personally. If I win, the $20 went to the USATT Junior Committee. Some players would donate more, and two things came out of that. I raised over $5,000 that way for USA table tennis, and I only lost twice out of hundreds of matches. And amazingly, both losses were the same player, Bruce Liu, who was rated. One of the times he was rated 1999, but I lost just in the third to him twice. It was 19 or 11. Anyway, really close. And both times he donated the money anyway. So I raised a lot of money that way. Clipboard is fun. I'm not as good as I used to be, but I can still beat anyone or 2,000.
Well, Larry Hodges, I want to thank you for spending time with us on this Pong Positive interview series, and for you remaining positive. That's one of the elements as well in my interaction with you, that you always have an upbeat, positive, outlook on life. And really right now at this moment, there really is nothing more important than just staying upbeat, staying positive, and staying safe.
I agree. It's probably best. I mentioned earlier that I keep wondering why maybe they could play the 9 foot difference, but probably not. They probably should just avoid anything except robot play for many months until this thing is really over. It's a real problem. In my mind, I'm not planning to do it. I'm not expecting to do a serious table tennis until maybe August or September, but we'll just have to wait and see how things go.
Well, Larry, once again, thank you very much for being part of our Pong Positive interview series. Have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you in the not too distant future.
You too. Thank you. Appreciate it. Bye.
Thank you, Larry.
Bye, everybody.